Good morning, guys. We have lots of movement today. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive right into this and show you guys what is going on in the market and what my expectations are going forward. So, haven't looked at it too much, so we're sort of looking at this together. So, as you guys can see, we came down here, we have rejected, or we have bounced off of, what did we bounce off of? We got in between the yearly open and the previous capitulation candle and the retracement of there. There's not really a good reason as to why I could think we bounced at this particular spot. But as you guys can see, we definitely had a lot of downside wicks. But whenever they keep going down, it keeps getting bought back up. What's the most logical solution? Well, it bounces back up to the upside. So we talked about this yesterday on what we were looking for some sort of a retracement. Like, if you guys look at this, this pattern right here, we kept going down, but we actually kept bouncing from it. And also the volume profile wasn't very good. And we also had this bullish divergence that was forming here between this low and this low. So there were definitely signs that the market was absolutely like strengthening as we kept dropping. I really wasn't paying attention to it too much because this definitely looked like a bull flag or a bear flag to me. So I really wasn't like calling it out by any means. But in general, hindsight's 2020, yada yada yada. So yeah, we had high volume on this drop, we had low volume on this drop, and it obviously bounced back up. So looks like we got above this trend line, which is the one from, it's not a very significant trend line. It's really interesting. Let's see if there's another chart that shows it better. No, not this one. No. Sort of. Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure why we actually bounced this level. I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is a very significant reclaim, though, and this is something I want you guys to really, really pay attention to, because on the 4 hour, is this the one right here, or is it this one? I think it's this one, actually. There it is. Okay, this drop to this drop. I was looking at this descending wedge pattern. And as you guys can see, we have now reclaimed that level. So we are now back inside that descending wedge. There's a few different ways to draw it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one and show you guys this other descending wedge I was looking at. And this is the one I think has the most significance. Really hard to grab it, but there it is right there. This is the descending wedge that I've really been looking at. I think has a lot of significance. And it is converging into a central point, although in the 4 hour it's not very obvious, but it actually is converging. So because of that, we are now solidly inside of this level. And right now we are rejecting off of the bottom side of this, which isn't even that significant of a level to me. So, oh man, there's a lot of strength, there's a lot of volume, not a tremendous amount of volume though. And that's something to take note of, but this chart showing a ton of volume. What is this? Is this Coinbase? Symbol details. Bitstamp. Okay. Not as significant as I thought it was going to be. Which one is this? Sorry, I'm on mobile, so bear with me here for a second. I want to make sure I get the right information for you guys. Symbol details. This one's Binance US, not significant. And this one, perpetual contract. So this one's going to be the Binance one, and you do have a pretty decent increase. So we're still solidly inside some major levels, right? Like this major daily breaker is right here. So like, don't get too excited yet. Make that very clear. But it's really nice to have this massive increase. Something else I want you guys to take notice of. Go back to the chart. Let's go back and add the indicator in here. Is that, let's go to funding, neobutane. This is the one I'm looking for right here. Oh shit, neobutane. This is the one I want to add into my chart right now. Let's go ahead and exit out of one of them. There you go. So as you guys can see, we are still perpetually negative funding. Like this has been absolute negative funding this entire time, okay? And this is brought up by Credible Crypto this morning on how they're like, well, it's the same basic thing as the drop from 6,000. However, his argument is that it's absolutely not the same thing, because if you go to the drop from 6,000, well, I guess you can't do it on this chart. Can't do it on that chart. Let's find a chart we can do it on. All right, there we are. This is the chart I'm looking at. Over here, what was the funding rate at this drop? Look right here. it was positive. We had positive funding on this massive drop. And remember, we have negative funding over here on this drop. So no, they're not the same, okay? And this negative funding is actually bullish pressure on the market. So don't compare this so closely with the drop from 6,000, because we are still in this negative funding ratio. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Our alts are recovering pretty damn well. I really, really, really like how we're back into this range. That makes me super, super excited. But of course, like I brought up, we are still testing this daily breaker right here. This daily breaker is going to be giving us a lot of resistance. So daily close above like 31.8 today would be absolutely amazing. I would be really, really, really happy if we got that. I'm definitely still going level to level. As I talked about in yesterday's video, my price targets probably going to take a significant dip in my, I'm going to cash out quite a bit of it, around 43 to 45,000. Probably going to drop maybe about 30% of my spot holding at that point. If we get up to around 50,000, another 10%, and at 58,000, if we get up that high, I'll probably take another 10% off and then let the other 50% ride. Because my bias is still a rebound, right? Because we have not gotten it, like I discussed in yesterday's video. And then once we get that rebound, probably continue back down and maybe get some good entries down here at 25,000, 24,000, maybe even lower. Okay, that's still very possible. Now, if we break above all-time highs or show a lot of strength in this area, then I'd be looking to add back position, especially in the altcoin market, because I think that's the time where our alts are absolutely going to explode. If we get there, okay, there is a lot of stuff going on here, and we have to do one step at a time, level to level, because it still, although it looks good this morning, it's not like we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, okay? Make that very clear. So like this 200 moving average looks really, really juicy to me. I think that would be an absolute gorgeous short opportunity or reduced position opportunity if I get there. That's the spot I'm really looking to try to dump some position off. And of course, like I mentioned, we have this level up here at 56,000, and we have a massive CME gap. If I can find it, technical CME gap. Right up in here. This gap right here is very juicy as well. So 45 to 48, yeah, like I actually mentioned already, like that gap looks really, really good. So that lines up with the 200 moving average as well. So I do think that's very likely, or let me rephrase it, it's very possible. I'm not going to say likely yet. Let's take one level at a time, see how it reacts, and go from there. We do have quite a bit of support, only about 30% down from where our current position is at on the total chart. You can see it pretty clearly. The total chart, we have this major golden pocket retracement there. And we also have on the weekly level, we have this very obvious weekly breaker that should provide us a lot of support as well. So this is where I look to get my massive entries at. So it's possible we have a major bounce to my $45,000 region. I'll sell about 30% of my position there. And then on the retracement, buy back like mad at this location, because I'm trying to get more fiat right now, just so that I can buy in this area if we get this opportunity. I don't think we're going to see 20,000, but I think that around 25,000, which will be around the 1 trillion mark for the entire crypto market, is the golden spot where I'll be adding a lot of my position. I mentioned yesterday how a lot of the altcoins look like they're basically at their major retracement points already. So this bounce is not very surprising. And I think a lot of people who are looking for 20,000 are not going to see it. I think it's going to get front ran. I think that golden pocket ratio on the total chart is going to really surprise a lot of people. So they're not really looking at the total chart, look at the individual charts. But you got to look at the entire market as a whole and not just the individual markets. Now, something else to take note of, the DXY. DXY index is the dollar currency index. And this one is something you guys should be paying attention to. On the high time frame, this looks pretty damn bullish, okay? You have this pretty obvious head and shoulders, which a lot of people are playing. You have 1, You have the left shoulder, right shoulder, or head, and then right shoulder, right? It did pretty low, but I still think this is a valid head and shoulders if you're playing it as this pattern. Well, if you look over here, we've busted above the neckline, if that's what you want to call it. Even if it's not a neckline, this is still a very clear support resistance. So we still have busted above there. But here's the key. We get rid of the funding. We don't need that anymore. The key here is if you zoom in on the 4-hour chart, you guys can see how this is a pretty dang clear rising wedge. And as we know, rising wedges are bearish patterns, right? It's a bearish pattern. We also have a lot of bearish divergences that have formed all over the place over here. So you can go to the trend line, you can go down here and see how we have falling wedge there. You can see how we basically have one massive bearish divergence that's been forming on the 4-hour for quite a while. So lots of series of lower highs on the RSI while we have higher highs on price. Very clear bearish divergence. And the DXY goes inversely to Bitcoin in general. I've done video in this explaining how well it works. The key here, guys, is as this drops, Bitcoin rises. And as Bitcoin rises, this one drops. They work independently of each other. So the stronger the dollar, the less likely people are to put their money in riskier assets and vice versa. So, yeah, there we are. So that's where I'm at, guys. I think that basically covers all my thoughts in the morning. You guys know what I'm looking for. I'll keep you guys updated on Discord and Twitter and all that good stuff. I'm at work today, so I don't know how much I'll be able to do, but I'm going to try to give you guys as much information as I can. So I will let you all go, and I'll see you in the next video. So do